Your friend has got a lot to share.
Hey, it's Steve Parker. Welcome to another edition of Radio Friends again. This for the 19th of January, 2024. Got a lot of people that must be lonely that are signing on for us today from all over different parts of the country. So let's go around the room. And first we'll say good morning to Dave Overson. Dave, where are you coming from today?
Well, Steve, I'm coming from beautiful Port St. Lucie, Florida, where it is actually raining and cloudy outside, and the temperature's about 64 degrees, 65 actually, went up a notch. So that's where I'm coming from.
Well, for those of us in Berlin, Connecticut, we're kind of envious of still the temperature that you have down there because the dogs slid all over each other this morning. America's Funniest Home Videos. All right, let's see who else we've got out there. There's Ron Pell.
Hello, Steve. This is Ron Pell coming to you from beautiful, snowy Meriden, Connecticut, the Silver City, Meriden, Connecticut. And we're getting snow flurries today. And I see you're wearing the CRN sweatshirt. I have one of those.
I was
Very
hoping
nice.
someone would notice that. Yeah, CRN
I
University.
noticed it. I have one just like it. And that was one of the things CRN did well.
All right, and Ted Dalico is here. How you doing, Ted?
Very good, Steve, and everybody. I'm calling in from the West Coast, the West Coast of Florida. That is Venice, Florida, just south of Sarasota, where, as Dave pointed out, for the last couple of days, it's been cloudy. The Sunshine State has turned on the damper, and it's been rainy and cloudy. But the good news is it's only going to be 35 degrees tomorrow morning, so I think we should be happy about today.
Oh, don't freeze your fruit off.
I know. Berries fall.
And Mr. Lunchtime himself is here. He's been with us all along since we first started the program. And that was because Bob Craig was the one that planted the seeds for all of us to get together. And who would imagine this reunion would continue on all these, for over a year and a half. Bob Craig. Hi, Bob.
Hi, good morning. Good morning from snowy Philadelphia. We're 2 hours away from lunchtime, but we're about 6 inches away from a snowstorm here.
There'll be some frozen peas and carrots today that are going to be part of your lunchtime.
Yeah, don't forget the cottage cheese and strawberry shortcake.
First thing in the morning.
Okay.
Along with a
Sounds good.
slab of mustard.
Clark Schmidt, who if he has an antenna, will travel. We don't know where Clark is today. So Clark, where are you?
How are you? I'm in southern New Hampshire. It's 21 and cloudy. Snow might come a little while. And I'm still working to get that FM put on the air in Fairfield County.
If Clark's got a few minutes to spare, he's putting another radio station on the air. Minutes to
Could be
spare.
the Voice of America.
Listen, there are a lot of us out there that sound great with home studios. And hey, we need a home for the terminally groovy.
All right. And let's see. We've got Greg Simonson is here. Hi, Greg.
Morning, Steve. Morning, everybody. I'm calling in today from Northampton, Massachusetts, where we're hoping to send all of the snow a little bit north, but we can't be sure of that.
How about John Landry? Hi, John.
Hi, I'm in Middletown, Connecticut, and yes, it's snowing out here too. We just started snowing a few minutes ago. We're a balmy 22 degrees out.
Dean Richards. Hi, Dean.
How you doing, everybody? From Torrington, Connecticut, the northwest corner, and I probably have the same kind of weather as Ron Pell and a few other people. I haven't been outside yet, so I can't give you really an update, but wearing my RCH looking like Barney purple.
Very nice. Very nice.
So,
it looks like it's lightweight.
yeah, it is. It's lightweight fleece. We need those extra layers up here. So anyway, good to be with you this morning.
Oh God, Ed Bruder is here, crawling out of his bunker, his broadcast bunker. Ed is popping his head up out of the ground like a gopher. How you doing, Ed?
Good. In fact, I probably beat Clark by just a few miles, so I'm probably the northernmost person in this group. I'm in Manchester, New Hampshire.
All right, let's see. We've got Lee Gordon's here.
Hey there. I'm also checking in from not so sunny Florida. I'm in Boynton Beach, Florida, little bit south of Dave, and because it's much warmer here. It's kind of a crummy day, but it's 71 degrees, so I'll take it.
Yeah.
And there's Pete Salant.
Thank you, Steve. And hello, radio friends. Live from the Chesapeake Bay Beach in Virginia Beach, where it is 40 and raining. And this is the weather we moved out of Southern Connecticut to get away from. Well, here I am, and I'm happy to be here.
And Tracy Carmen.
Live and in person from Riviera Beach outside of West Palm Beach. For some reason, it's a little warmer here than where Lee is. It's 74 degrees out, a little overcast, but you know, sure beats snow any day of the week, so I'm not going to complain.
Yeah. Okay.
Steve, your mic's out.
Did I get everybody signed in here? I think I went around.
I believe so, yeah.
All right. Hey, well, welcome everybody. I exchanged a couple of emails with Lainey Peterson from last week, who was with us from Radio Inc. magazine, along with Cameron Coates, and she said she hasn't received any pictures yet. So that could be my fault. So anything that I know, Dave, you sent me some. Any pictures you have, if you want to send them along to me, I'll make sure that we get them off to Lainey. If you give us a brief description, maybe an approximate year. Or, I know they're really big on, as Lainey had said, they're really the people that read Inc. magazine really seem to enjoy the stuff with the equipment and stuff. Kind of, it looks like a lot of in-studio stuff is what they like. Some events and stuff could be cool, but I think it's of course, you know, the stories behind connecting the equipment on the from the events could be interesting stories too. But yeah, so if anything comes along, she seemed to really enjoy herself, and also she sent me it's a free link to their newsletter for Radio Inc. So I'll send that out to you guys if we all want to get onto their newsletter. That'll be cool. And there's also information there if you do want to subscribe to the magazine, whether it's online or whatever. So I'll forward her email that she sent to me as far as how to get our hands on that. I thought it might be kind of interesting because maybe it could bring us some different guests for the show and also give us some different subjects to discuss. And I also found for some of the people that were there, I know looking around the panel here, there's quite a few people. I went back and saw kind of a neat version of our 100th anniversary of WDRC, the reunion we did down here. And Steve Sattler, who put it together, worked in a lot of old black and white shots of just radio in general, some good humor behind it and everything. And a lot of it we shot just basically, in one room with Sandy Beach and Dick Robinson and people coming to say hello. And there's a couple of group shots up there. So I'll get that off to you too. But we had talked about, and again, it can be another subject if anybody's got other ideas, but with the age range that we have here, all pretty darn close to each other, I thought it'd be kind of interesting to talk about if you were in the business or radio was a big part of your life, maybe just as a listener in any specific events that took place. I know for me, it goes all the way back to JFK, and there were things before that that Ron Pell might remember. I don't think so, though. He's not that far ahead of me. But yeah, so maybe just throw it out there if anybody wants to jump on. And let's see. Where do you want to? Why don't we start with what do you want to start with, Dave?
I don't know. Start with. All right, I'll start it up. A couple of weeks ago when we did the show and we stopped recording, I told a story and it got me silly. And I start laughing now. I was working at DRC in the production room, and Mike Holland was on the air on the AM side. Paul Rep was his engineer, and I'm in the production room. All of a sudden, I hear this crash. I mean, a god-awful crash. I walked out, and there's Paul Rep standing there. Now, Paul was a pretty tall guy, standing there ankle high in carts. We had a Lazy Susan, and he went to pull a cart out, and the whole cart rack fell on his head. And he was just, and you had to see him standing there with the glasses like this, hanging from his face. I started laughing, but then I see blood coming from the top of his forehead. So I went into my emergency police mode and rendered first aid. Mike Collins, he he's in tears. He's in tears. I'm in tears. And now he's trying to, but he's got to continue with his show. And he's calling out carts. And I'm going through the pile, trying to find the right cart to put in the machine and to play the next break set. And we're doing that. And Paul Rep is dazed. And I put a compress on the forehead. And it was a sight to be seen. That was for sure. And but Paul turned out okay. He was all right. He was able to continue the rest of the night. But yeah, that was the I think one of the funniest things that ever happened to me at DRC, and I had a lot of them. But
Hey, so Dave, when you do go back as far as outside of the station goes, and how a specific location reacted to, maybe it could have been a storm, it could have been an assassination, it could have been anything that was, maybe changed the face of the world for that day or permanently.
well, I do have one with and unfortunately Alex Frazier isn't on today, but it was when the tornado hit Windsor Locks. I think it was in '78.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I was it turned real dark, and the AM went off the air, and I got the AM back on because Wayne was out of town, and it was it was crazy. And then little Shirley comes up to me and she says, the building is leaking. And I said, leaking where? And it was all along where they added on the new addition when they redid 869 Blue Hills Avenue. And I'm in the newsroom and I hear the police scanner saying that the Koala Inn at Bradley Field roof caved in. So I mentioned it to Ken Trimble. And so next thing I know, I'm going down to Mount Sinai Hospital to do a report from there. And they brought in Rob Branham. Thank God he relieved me from there. I went back to the station, and then they wanted somebody who knew where the Windsor Locks PD was, because that's where the governor's command post was going to be. I happened to know where it was. So Alex and I jumped in the DRC car, drove out of there with about a quarter of a tank of gas. And Alex says, well, we got to get gas. I said, yeah, I said, we can get one right there in Windsor Locks. Well, all power was down. There was no gas station to be had. And we're doing reports, and I'm doing a report, and a live report with Fred Swanson in the newsroom. And, it looked like a disaster area. I mean, it looked like it was a bombed area. We went by Bradley Airport. Planes were flipped over. We saw this huge house, and it looked like a dollhouse. Had the three sides and part of the roof, and the one side completely gone. And the house across the street wasn't even touched. I mean, that's how pinpoint this tornado was. And so, Alex, we went back to the Windsor Locks PD, and Alex takes the tape machine and is filing a report to Fred on the phone in the lobby, payphone in the lobby. And all of a sudden the governor comes out, and there's a photographer. So I have my DRC microphone with the flag on it. And I just stuck it in the governor's face, basically, just to get the flag on the air. And Alex is going, somebody says, well, what's Dave doing? He says, Dave's doing an interview with the governor. And he goes, how can that be? I got the tape machine here, and I had the cord in my pocket, going in my pocket. I just asked the governor a couple of questions, and Corson loved it because it was all on TV. You saw the DRC flag. The next morning, the governor was there, the DRC flag right up front, and that's all he was interested in. And I told Charlie Parker, I said, when I left the station, I said, do you want me to give my Irv Morrison approach to this? And he goes, God, no, don't do that. Don't do that. So we were out in the car, and I had to say, I said, Alex, oh, the humanity of all this mess in the garden, the whole 9 yards. And so I got back to the station, and Charlie said to me, he says, you were saying that. Corson was in the room listening, loved every minute of it. He says, I was ready to crawl out from underneath my desk. And I said, he probably doesn't even know who Morrison was in the Hindenburg disaster tape. But
he didn't know who a lot of us were, though, in the building.
Yeah, I know, and it was yeah, it was amazing. That was probably one of the most exciting days I had there.
I think Ron Pell was up at the station then too, right, Ron?
There, I remember we were in Brad and Kenny's office in the back,
Yeah.
and where Rob would sit, and Corson came in, and we literally you could not see out the window. It was darker than the middle of the night. I'll never forget that. I said, I can't believe this, and the rain was just incredible. I said, holy cow! And we didn't know at that point that there was going to be that it was real tornado. They tell you kind of after the fact. And then we heard, just a few minutes later from the weather, wherever we got the information from that a tornado had touched down in Windsor Locks, which is
Yeah,
from
Len Thomas.
DRC, maybe 5 or 6 miles away as the crow flies.
Yeah, it was at Bradley Airport, the weather service, and the EBS went off, and this is earlier before I even went out. I was in there and I heard the EBS, and Len Thomas just took and flipped the switch off. I said, "What'd you do?" He says, "Oh," he says, "it's just probably some just an emergency." I says, "You know how dark?" I says, "I know you can't see here, but it's pitch black. We don't know what's going on." And we missed that message, but the FM got it. That's good. But I mean, it was crazy. It was a crazy day, and Wayne
sure
came
was.
in. Yeah, then Wayne came in and because we finally got a hold of him on his pager, and he comes in, he goes, "Where's the leaks?" I said, "It's over here, it's over there, it's all along the corridor where we put on the new addition." And roof was leaking, and it was an insane day. It was crazy. And it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it looked like it was 5 o'clock at night,
Midnight.
the lights
I
up.
think we had I think Lee Gordon was probably around. I don't know who else from the market was around during that storm. Lee?
It's funny. You were talking about Dave was talking about the planes being at Bradley being upside down, because at the time the Connecticut Air Museum did not have a building. They had all their planes lined up along Route 20, and those are the planes that got flipped upside down.
I remember that.
They were all these basically these antique planes. Fortunately, I don't think very many of them got destroyed. Quite a few of them obviously got damaged, but yeah, that was. I was living in Newington at the time, so I wasn't I wasn't experiencing the same degree of weather that you would have gotten up closer to Bradley, but so I don't remember it being like pitch dark, but yeah, I mean, a tornado coming through is not exactly a common thing for Connecticut.
Not in Connecticut, no, never.
I was
one of the things I noticed the next day, I had gone back up to Bradley, and you could see the path where the whole tornado came in. All the trees were just down, and it was eerie. And I go, "Holy shoot!" And that thing just came right through, and you could see exactly where the path was. And the ironic thing was, one side of the street was houses were destroyed. On another side of the street, they weren't even touched.
I was doing middays on TIC at the time. And
hang on, let me get Ted in there, and then we'll go to John. Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, I was doing middays at TIC AM at the time. We were in the Gold Building downtown.
Yeah.
And on FM, Rick Donahue was doing middays. And I knew that Rick was came down from Michigan, from the Upper Peninsula, where they do get a lot of tornadoes up in Michigan. And I looked out the window because I had spent 4 years in Toledo, and there were tornadoes, one right after the other. 2 weeks after I got there, I was out in the tornado for 3 days. I was at the station, never got back to my apartment. But I looked out the window, and it was that green sky that happens right before tornadoes hit. Literally, the sky turns green. And I looked out the window. I went next door to Rick, and I knocked on the door. I came in, and I said, "Rick, did you look out there?" He said, "Yeah, that looks bad. That looks green." And sure enough, it was like within 20 minutes, the tornado had touched down at the airport, and all the reports started coming in. And it was just unbelievable. But you could tell from our perspective up there, you could see that it was coming down and it was going to be mean for at least a brief period of time. But
And I think excuse me, I think it was around 1979 because I just started at the station.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was supposed to be in Windsor Locks that afternoon, and I was calling on a car dealership, and it went right through that car dealership. It took out the showroom windows and everything. But at the last minute, as you know, I had this attention deficit disorder I'm damn proud of, and it took me. I was at an intersection. I can still remember taking a left to go down through Newington on the Berlin Turnpike instead of heading up and going up 91. But yeah, that was a real scene going up there a couple days later. John Landry, you had something you wanted to add?
Yes, I was working in Windsor Locks when it hit. I was not working in radio. I was working for United Technologies at the time, and we were on the second floor in the lab, and we looked out the window, and there was an 4 by 8 foot piece of plywood that was just floating across the window. And we were, 20, 25 feet off the ground anyway. And it was just like a piece of paper. When we got out of work, they let us out early. We walked into the parking lot, and there were some cars that were damaged. Some other cars were, left perfectly okay. One car I remember had like a telephone pole going through the windshield.
Oh my God.
I don't know where the telephone pole came from because we were nowhere near a telephone pole, but that's what happened. It was very, very weird. I tried to call my wife at the time, and we couldn't get through. All of the phone lines were busy. Everything was offline. It was just sheer panic up there. It was incredible.
I think Judge Harrigan is here. I don't know, Judge, where you were at that point in time. Judge, first of all, Judge, where are you coming to us from today?
I'm in Marlborough, Connecticut.
Oh, nice town.
Were you in the area when this thing hit?
I was, but I wasn't in radio at the time. That was after I left WAVZ. I started my new career at Aetna as a computer programmer. It was October 3rd, 1979. I heard you talking about it, so I checked the date.
And so was there anything specific that you remember about that storm, even though you weren't at a station?
No, just that it got very, very dark outside. As Ron said, it was just incredible. It was like midnight when it came.
Exactly.
There was no damage that I remember in Hartford itself. I remember the storm passed through, and we got out of work, and everything seemed to be fine after that.
Jim Harrigan, where are you coming from us? Harrington, Judge Harrigan, Jim Harrington. Where
you get your gins messed up. I'm in outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was not around for that tornado, but there was one, I want to say in 1974, which was nowhere near as big as the one you're talking about, but it came through Vernon. It came literally within 1/10 of a mile of my house, and it ended up taking a right. It was like following a street. And it went down to the Little Vernon post office, which was at the time, I'm not talking about the one in Rockville. They had a little post office down by Ted Truden, down by the Circle, and it was in an old, like a strip mall, and it went right through the backyard of the post office. And like you guys said, it cut a swath, through the woods, and the trees were bent over like they were matchsticks. So I can only imagine what you guys saw in 78, if it was obviously was much bigger than the one we had, but that wasn't the first tornado for Connecticut.
Hey, Jim, didn't they used to call that area Talcottville?
Talcottville, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. They used to have a little miniature golf place across the street and a movie theater and stuff like that. They probably
the strip center with that guy. When I first got into radio, I put together a co-op with the 4 businesses that were in that strip center. It was a shoe store, post office, and a couple other businesses.
Is Ted Truden even around nowadays? No,
I
he's
don't
gone.
think so.
It was a VW dealership.
VW, yeah.
VW Porsche. We got, I don't know whether you got one, Ted, but they gave us jackets. Porsche VW jackets as a perk for doing something out there. And I forgot what it was. And I had mine for the longest time until it didn't fit anymore.
Oh, it shrunk.
Yeah, it shrank. It
Got too
shrank.
big for you, right?
It
was way too
shrank.
big
Yeah,
for
I
you.
don't know what the hell was wrong with it. So I ended up giving it to somebody who was in need. Some poor homeless guy walking around in Pittsburgh somewhere with a Ted Truden Porsche BMW jacket.
And Jim, I want to thank you for that jacket. That
You're
was very
welcome.
nice.
You're welcome, Dave.
Yeah, not to get off subject, but that brings an interesting point. Think about all the wearables that radio stations created between T-shirts and sweatshirts and hats, and you see what Steve's wearing and what Dean's wearing. It's amazing. You're right. There's
You're
probably a lot of needy people walking around with radio station logos.
When I was young in the business, I mean, I had a closet full of this stuff.
Right.
From all the different stations you work in and stuff like that, belt buckles and T-shirts, jackets, hats.
Yeah.
No
Jim, don't
underwear.
forget your Coke pants.
Oh, God. We had Coke pants. Oh, my dear God.
There's got to be about 200 T-shirts where I'm sitting from going back to the days of Wacky 102 from 1973 through the short-lived WHFM in Springfield all the way down to stations down here in Florida. Some of the stuff I'm sorting out here, there's got to be
Do you still wear it?
Yeah.
Do you still wear it?
I don't wear a lot of that stuff. Being the size that I am, I don't want to look like a weather balloon. So I tend to avoid it.
Right before I moved down to Florida, I got together with Tracy and I gave him a big box of WPOP softball shirts and T-shirts. I saved a couple of them for Joe D'Ambrosio, and then I might have kept one for myself, but I had every softball shirt from every station softball team that I ever played on from the 70s to the 90s, and Tracy has all of that in his warehouse now.
Added to the collection of everything else that's here from every other station that's existed all up and down the seaboard.
You know what's scary is my wife still wears some of my DRC. The DRC. She hasn't changed, so I know it didn't shrink. It had to be.
I have a
DRC, DRC had we think we had the D103 rumper stickers that went on the back of your blue jeans. That was fun, making a commercial for that. I remember seeing a girl at West Farms Mall, and I was, that was my warm-up act, as Ron knows, doing maintenance at West Farms Mall, making sure I get that radio banter down through their PA system. But there was a girl there that just was, she looked really nice when she walked away. And I said, have you ever thought about doing a television commercial? And that's why we got a great shot of her rump with a rumper sticker on it. We also had, I think one of my nephews back then in his diapers had a rumper sticker on the back of his diaper. So it was just another thing that they pulled out of their butt.
They probably put it on their resume. I was in the
Let me ask
commercial.
you guys a question. What do you do with that stuff? I mean, literally, I probably have 200 T-shirts between here and
Sell them
up
on
in
eBay.
Massachusetts.
Believe it or not, there's a market for that stuff on eBay.
Sure.
There are collectors who would love to buy that stuff.
Mhm.
Well,
That's why that's why they make attics in homes.
Oh, I've got them.
It's true.
Yeah, I think, let's see, we've had a few people right now that are just joining us. So let's see, going around the room, where did I see? Yes.
Two more Bobs, Zamboni and Marks are both coming
Bob
in.
Marks just jumped on. Hi, Bob. Where you calling from us today?
Well, we're all used to radio, Bob, so as long as we can hear you, that's the important thing.
That's right.
It's like television without pictures.
Yeah.
Well, I just turned 83.
Hey, happy birthday.
God bless you. Congratulations.
Sympathy.
I don't know about that. No, but seriously, I'm doing okay, and just nagging things. Your body really does fall apart. God damn it. Oh, I'm sorry. You record these. So, and mine is slowly but surely, but I'm trying to hit 90. Or will you think we'll still be doing this in 7 more years?
Hey, listen, as long as a couple of us can get together, we'll still be doing it.
Yeah, sure.
Oh gosh. Well, why can't I get you the picture?
I don't know. Now, I think Bob.
Now you,
Bob
he has a.
Hey, wait a
does
minute. Hey, real quick, I want to ask Bob DiCarlo. We haven't seen you in a few weeks. Everything else okay?
Yeah, fine. I just
Bob,
well,
on the video, is there? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. In reality, I don't have a lot to contribute.
Well, you don't
because
have to. Just hang. Bob, I mean, really, I mean, just hang. You never know. I mean, that's you know, I'm there's always something to hang. You might hear something. You always got. You must hear things when we send out the link, and you probably said, "Oh shoot, I wish I was in on that."
Well, at times that happens. I have been spending an awful lot of time in doctors' offices.
Oh, boy.
I have a guy who does my this and a guy who does my that. I have venous insufficiency. I have penis insufficiency.
Oh.
More information than we need.
Yep.
Too much information.
Too much. Man.
Sounds like somebody needs Lala.
Hey, we were talking about the storm up in Windsor Locks, and I don't know. Let's see. Greg, were you in the area then?
Well, I was up in Northampton, Massachusetts, and I happened to have had a horrible Chrysler Cordova because I was in sales. I wanted to be like Herb Carlin.
Was it
But the thing was
leather. And it's
the
Corinthian
thing was
leather.
the thing was a real pig, and I was supposed to take it down to the Chrysler dealer in Windsor Locks that day, and I was just goofing off, and I didn't. And I was so sad because I saw on TV news that every car in the Chrysler dealer lot in Windsor Locks was brought up into the air, ruined, and got replaced by the insurance company. And I'm, for the next 4 years, still driving around this pig. But I was also, I gained great respect for weather when I did go down there and drive down Route 75 and saw, again, as I think Dave said earlier, the houses on one side of the street flattened. And the houses on the other side looking great. And if you look closely, you can still see that so many of the trees along that route are younger than the ones on one side of the street than on the other. But my most painful memory of that Cordoba was that day. I was thinking about if I maybe could get a helicopter and just drop it into the mist in the back and say, "Hey, I was there."
Hey, Bob Marks, you were probably around when that tornado hit, right?
I don't remember. To be honest with you, I don't remember when the tornado hit.
October 3rd, 1979.
Yeah, well, I was at Big D at the time. I started there in 75. I ended there in 83. So 79 tornado. I don't know. I remember the blizzard of 77.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you were probably on the air. No, that wouldn't be good. That would probably couldn't be your shift then. And where are you coming to us from today, Bob?
Pardon?
Well, actually, I'm sitting in my home office and I'm about to go visit my wife. I'm taking her home from the hospital tomorrow. So I've just been doing a lot of chores at home and all of the things I have to do at the radio station. I still work a little. I'm semi-retired, so I do have duties, and then I sleep.
And you're still down in Florida, right?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I'll never leave here. I'll never leave here.
And
if I leave here,
oh, you're missing so much, Bob, and we're getting 6 inches of snow.
Oh, I'm missing that. Come on. I gotta wear my snowshoes.
And what
and
about
get a snow shovel? I left that behind 37 years ago, guys.
Yeah, but you don't get to drive a little snow tractor around your driveway, I mean, you can, but there's no snow.
That'll make the neighbors wonder. Pete Salant, where were you when the storm hit? Were you in the area?
Yeah, I was running KC 101 then. We were about 3 months old, and gee, we didn't pay much attention to Hartford down in New Haven, I guess. We probably should have, but we didn't. I mean, we were aware of it, but didn't make a big deal about it.
Wow. Who's on the air then, Pete? Who'd you start with?
You mean the jocks on the air?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Jerry Christopher was doing mornings.
Yeah.
Danny Lyons did middays, and then I did a later midday shift, like 1 to 3. The late Floyd Wright did afternoons. The also late Willie B. Good did evenings. And gee, I don't remember who did nights.
Jerry.
Let me interrupt to say that was a great lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening. I was working still up in Northampton, Massachusetts in those days.
Yeah.
Came down to Connecticut, and that was the station that we would listen to. The people at the station thought that was really a super. You guys were doing a super job, and it was all kind of a little bit cutting edge, if I recall. I don't remember why.
Well, we took. Jerry was he was the promotion director, and
remember all the characters he had. Peggy the time-telling pig.
Peggy Latilla, the time-telling pig.
Yep.
Right,
He was great. We basically took the staff from the AM station from Waves and just moved it to the FM, because when I finally got permission to do that, I was given 2 weeks to get it on the air. So that didn't leave us, much time to move a mono AM station to stereo FM, but we pulled it off.
I was going to college.
It was great.
I was going to college in Bridgeport at the time. I remember sitting in the, of all places, you guys went on the air. I was at AQI in Springfield, and I remember the only place there was a radio in the building was in the bathroom, and they had the bathroom radio tuned to KC101 to see what you guys were doing.
Wow.
I remember Jerry Christopher was, of course, now that he's at JMJ, that's disappeared. But Jerry always said, and it's a tasty 69 degrees.
Yeah.
He had so many characters that he did. The Rhoda Barrett. I mean, just Bruce Barrett. He was. Remember Rhoda Barrett? She was the columnist. He was her gay brother. Bruce Barrett.
Didn't he do Dr. Proctor too?
That's
Dr.
right.
Proctor, right. He just had so many great things, and unfortunately, as his career went on, he kind of did away with those things. But he was, Jerry was one of the all-time greats. But you think of that lineup: Danny Lyons, Floyd Wright. I mean, these are big names, and to start out a radio station and to have that kind of a lineup is just unbelievable.
Yeah, and those guys went on to way bigger things. Peter Bush went to PLJ and ABC, Danny went to WNBC. I was only at KC101 for about 9 months before I went to NBC's FM station in New York, WYNY.
YNY, yeah.
Yeah. So
that's great.
Yeah,
story.
that was
Floyd did weekends at YNY for a time too.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Pete, when you were at YNY, did you work with Bruce Bradley, or was he there at a different era?
No, he was. We hired him. Bruce was terrific, and he was a better morning man for us than Dan Daniel was. Dan had done afternoons at WMCA, and that's where he belonged. But they had put him on mornings before I got there, and I moved things around. And when I heard that Bruce Bradley was available, geez, I mean, he was there. There was no better. There was no better guy.
Bob Craig and I have discussed Bruce Bradley because we both liked his stuff when he was in Boston in the early '60s. And he was just a master, but I guess he could be a little prickly as a personality sometimes off air.
Yeah, he was a bit of a son of a bitch off the air.
Yeah, Bruce was very meticulous about what he did, and it was amazing because he was the nighttime jock at BZ, like from 8 till midnight or 8 till
Right.
11 or whatever. And he would come up with these zinger of lines that would just devastate. Kids didn't get it, but adults did. And he was just, I worked with him for a while at BZ as an engineer, and he was very temperamental guy. You just never knew what kind of a mood that he would be in, but you had to respect his talent because he was just an outstanding guy with lines and zingers and stuff that was really sophisticated for a top 40 station or any station for that matter, but a genuinely good talent, no doubt.
Dick Summer
he
would
was.
tell me that Bruce Bradley was a very shy person. And when they go out on the Sundeck studio remotes, in between breaks or newscasts, Bill would just kind of hide in the back. He wouldn't go out and meet the folks. By the way, I speak to Dick Summer frequently. He's sounds great. He still does voices for me. He's about to be 89. I've invited him to this meeting. I reached out to Joey Reynolds, and another gentleman that has been big in my career was Sal and Jemmy from CBS Records, who'd love to come on and share things. I also heard from the first guy who took a chance on me, Tom Ford, a couple of days ago. And he says he watches the tapes, but I sent him the link, and hopefully Tom will appear because he's alive and well and looks
Yes,
himself.
he is. He comes to the boobs meetings on once a month.
He
Yeah,
did that
so
when they were in
yeah.
Hartford. It's a little tough to get to Middletown sometimes on a Tuesday night.
Clark, what did Sal say? Did he express ambition to be on this Zoom?
Yes, he did. He said, "Oh boy, I could share a lot of stories." He mentioned you. We speak every Saturday morning, and he just sounds great. He looks great too. He puts on a Red Sox uniform every once in a while, and it's like he's got a bat cleanup. But Sal is sharp as anything. He's about to be 89. And
Wow.
he's just a
God
very
bless him.
special guy. He's sharp as a tack and remembers so many things. And the greatest story was how he used to take this little girl singer from her walk-up tenement on 2nd Avenue to radio stations in Connecticut, and her name was Barbara.
Oh God.
You know, he and I were on the phone maybe about a month or two ago.
Yeah, he said that.
We were talking about Streisand because, you know, Sal, you guys got to remember, Sal started with CBS Records in the late 50s in Boston. And this guy worked with everybody, Santana, Springsteen, Harry Connick, anybody. And he was such a great, classy guy. He'd come in radio stations like really dressed, and you'd say, "Hey, Sal, love that jacket that you got on," you know.
Show business.
Anyhow, he told me that he still, I guess, stays in touch a bit with Streisand. But we were talking about the book that she has. It's a 1,000-page book. And
1,000 pages, yep.
I got it for Christmas, and I'm, you know, like at page 230 right now. And we were talking about that, and Sal said, "Why?" I said, "I got the book." He said, "I finished it in 2 days."
Whoa.
A 1,000-page book in 2 days. So
yeah, I think what we could do if we can, guys, if you connect with any of these guys that maybe, you know, they're going to stop in sometime and all that. I mean, I don't know, maybe we phrase it a different way. I don't know. I think having them on as a featured guest, so we know that so and so is going to be with us next Friday, and then we can kind of, you know, and you know, if they want to end up coming back, we'll keep them on the, you know, we'll keep them on the connection for the link. But it'd be kind of neat if they know that they're going to come on specifically to talk about what they're about, where their career's been, what it's going on. Maybe that would kind of interest them to kind of come along and say, you know, is there a good Friday for you? Not a good Friday.
If you were to draft a letter, you know, just a casual email that we could all send to people that we've known and we know are still active and would contribute to this, that might be kind of a nice thing, because then it really comes from you, and here's the link, and we do this every Friday at 9:45.
Yeah, and I just say, you know, your name has come up a few times, and then what I'll do is I can send it out to you guys to see if it looks good. If anybody wants to do any tweaking on it or anything else, you know, so it doesn't look too much like a form letter. I can dress it up a little bit when we have it. But I think, you know, and But if you want to just send me, you guys, if you want to, give me a name and give me an email, I just say, hey, so and so brought your name up. We think it'd be great to have you on, and same thing. If you can stay with us for 5 minutes, that's great. If you want to stay for the whole program, in, out, whatever you want. I'm just there. We got, look at that. There's Bob DiCarlo. Man looks so happy to be with us this morning.
It's so lovely. So
He's
lovely.
visiting us. He's visiting us in between doctor's appointments. Good morning to you, Bob. Where are you today, Bob?
Huh?
Where are you?
Where am I?
Yes.
Don't tell me you can't hear me.
No, I can hear you.
We can hear you.
I'm just trying to see what part of the country you're in this morning.
West Palm Beach, Florida.
Oh, you're here.
Well, don't forget, I've lived in Florida since 1977 when I went to work at WYOD in Miami. By the way, talking about Joey Reynolds, does anybody remember Joey Reynolds going to KQV in Pittsburgh?
There's your
no.
Yeah, wasn't it called the Groovy QV or something during his period?
Well, that's what he changed it to. And Jerry Christopher was doing Afternoon Drive.
Okay.
And then Joey brought in Hal Murray, Emperor Hal Murray, to do 2 hours before my morning show started. And then Hal Murray would sit there and not want to get away from the microphone. I said, Hal, get out of here. So I had to kick him out of the kit because, he would tell him one-liners and all this other stuff. And Joey was on the air, ad-libbing, doing his crazy things that he normally does. And he mentioned WAMO, WAMO, which was the urban station in Pittsburgh. And he called them the darkies on the hill.
Gotta love Joey.
Well, that was the last time he was on the air in Pittsburgh. And he lives down the road in Fort Lauderdale. That's where he is these days. And I get chicken and all the other stuff.
Yeah, and he throws stuff up on Facebook from time to time. But I do remember, the whole thing in Hartford, calling Mayor Usello a dumb broad and everything else. And, when my dad said, if you do that again, you're going to be fired. I still think she's a dumb broad the next night, and he was fired. But I will say, though, the funny thing was, and I didn't know this, but I guess when he finally ended up at IBG at Wibbage down in Philly, first night, he said, I still think she's a dumb broad. Meant nothing to anybody down there, but it was another shot back to Buckley, so I thought that was kind of fun.
After Joey left KQV, he relocated to, was it Lakewood, New Jersey? And I think he took Jerry Christopher with him to do mornings.
Well, that's where he came from. WMID, was it in
Atlantic City?
Atlantic City.
A Merv Griffin station.
Yes.
Merv owned that one.
Absolutely. God almighty. Jesus, that's a long time ago. But not as long ago as WYCE in Providence, I'll tell you that. 7 years. As a program director for the last 2, that was the worst thing I ever did in my life, was become a program director at Susquehanna.
Well, wait a second, though. If you didn't become program manager, I wouldn't have gotten a job at WICE. I'd still be working at WKFD in North Kingstown, Rhode Island, a 500-watt daytimer broadcasting to the fish.
Well, Jim Harrington came to the radio station dressed in did you have your Air Force?
Army.
Parka,
yeah, I had a raincoat. Wasn't it like a raincoat?
It was pouring rain. You were wearing your Air Force rain.
I look kind of stupid. I look kind of needy. I look like I needed a job.
Well, I guess I did okay because you did rather well in your.
Yeah, life was good. But everything is an opportunity, and you opened the door that I'll always appreciate, And I love WICE. It was like a playground for me. It had remember the microphone boom? It was like a TV microphone boom that hung over the board, the console, and you could walk around with it. And it was a stand-up operation.
Yep.
And I mean, it was a great jingles. You had it sounding really good.
Well, thanks.
Never mind the fact that one time I gave the wrong call letters on the station. That you know.
Oh hell! Every time I moved, I did the same thing for other. I remember I'm in San Diego, and I said, "Hey, KQB, good morning."
But Bob, I was working at the time. I was working afternoons at WSAR in Fall River, and I was working weekends at WICE. And you called me J.K. Harrington, and I was Jim Harrington over at WSAR. So I raced over one night from my first job to the second job, but I didn't leave the call letters behind. I brought them with me.
Nice guy.
And they overlapped signal too. So, you know, I'm sure there was some confusion.
I think we've all been guilty of that, Jim.
Yeah, the great Jefferson K on his first night at WKBW in Buffalo, the full half hour he kept saying WBZ instead of KB.
Yeah, I started this show. I started this show just a few months ago out of the blue because Dave and I had done the talk thing for a while at POP, and I signed on at TIC. Basically,
Thanks, Ted.
Yep. Said WPOP News 1410. It's like, and my producer looked at me like, "Have you lost your mind?" It's just like, that'll happen every now and then in the talk format. But oh my God, let's see, what do we got here? I guess Ted has to take a little break. Ted, thanks for stopping by. Hey, one last thing. Not one last thing, but I wanted to ask Bob. You said you're picking up Kaz today?
No, I actually pick her up tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Bring her home. She was operated on 2 weeks ago today, and she has been in a rehab hospital since last Tuesday. So
how's she
actually
doing?
a week ago Tuesday, right? Yeah. So she's doing well. I gotta say, she's doing well. Thank God. And answer to prayer all the way.
Hey, can anybody name Bruce Bradley's newsman?
Yeah,
Streeter Stewart.
Yeah.
Streeter Stewart is absolutely
very good.
Ding, ding, ding. God, I just remembered that name. I was thinking, Streeter Stewart reporting.
Larry Glick used to do the overnight and did the news as Streeter Glick.
He would call himself Streeter Glick.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Did any of you guys know? Did you know Streeter at all?
Yeah. Yeah, I worked at BZ from 71 to 75.
Right.
And
he was distinguished sounding as he was on the air.
Streeter was on the air till the very end. Don Batten was a news guy. Gary LaPierre, of course, was great. Jack Bunsey was the news director at that
Ted Larson. Ted Larson.
Don Kent was on, and Joe Green at the copter. It was quite an experience for a kid to get to be the operations director there. And finally, people knew the call letters when you said them. It was very exciting.
Streeter was extremely easy to break up on the air, and Jeff K would instigate him to break up on the air.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I remember when I was working there, they were going through a remodeling of the studio. Jim, they had two studios opposite each other on one side. So one of the studios was being renovated, and they had to put the newsman, instead of being in a little booth to work opposite him, they would put him in the same studio. And an engineer had his own booth over there and would see what was going on. Well, on Saturday night, Jeff used to do a radio program that was really quite bizarre. It was just anything goes. It was freewheeling, and he really didn't give a shit about what was going on. Streeter would come in and do a newscast, and Jeff invariably would break him up, and they would be almost right next to each other. If you've seen that classic tape of Dan Ingram and his newsman at WCBS FM, that is very similar to what it was like. But he was so easy to break up, and he would go through a newscast, and toward the end of it, he would laugh. That's something you really don't hear anymore on the radio. You don't hear people break up on the air anymore.
Well, that's because they're all recorded. That's
I worked,
the sad part.
Yeah, computers can't laugh.
Bob, when I worked at CBS FM, which was on 51 West 52nd Street when I was there. The newsman would come in to the on-air booth. It wasn't a separate booth. I mean, it was like I was sitting here and the newsman was sitting to my left, literally within arm's length. And I mean, you had to leave the room. Otherwise, I mean, there wasn't anything you could, if you did the slightest thing, you'd crack these guys up. And I'm talking about, these were network announcers. These were guys like Bill Gillian and Norm Stevens. And these were guys they'd be doing the announcing over at the network, for Walter Cronkite. You sit him next to me in the booth. And if I accidentally did something, they'd start to laugh. It was just the wrong environment. I don't know why they didn't have a booth, but and then they moved. But you talk about things, by the way, that happen when you're in radio. I don't know where you guys were in the blackout of '77 in New York, but I was on the air, and they were on the 17th floor of the Black Rock, they used to call it, and I remember looking out the windows, and the windows were floor to ceiling, and seeing all of Rockefeller Center and all of New York dark.
Yeah.
I didn't know at the time that I was going to be stuck in New York, literally stuck in New York for the next 2 days, because all the trains that came in and out of Grand Central ran on electricity, and there was no electricity. So the first night I spent on the floor of the CBS FM production studio with a guy named what was his name? Oh my God, the guy was a pretty famous actor, a character actor in films and stuff. He was in the movies like the 7-Ups, and I became friends with him. We were such good friends, I forgot his name. But I was stuck that night. The next night, I stayed at an engineer's apartment because I had nowhere to go. You couldn't get a room. All the rooms were filled up. You would have thought that the border was open because it was just jammed with people. Some of you guys, I'm sure, were in New York at the time. 77. Pete, you might have been in New York. I don't know whether you stuck.
Just missed it.
Oh, it's poor. It was so much fun. And every cabbie in New York thought that they had the right of way at the intersections. And there were these accidents. I remember walking down to Grand Central at 10 o'clock at night and seeing all these different fender benders along the way, getting down to Grand Central. And the strangest thing, if you've ever been to Grand Central, it's palatial. It's beautiful. Even
Beautiful.
back then, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous place.
It sure is.
Except at the time they used to put, they blacked out the mosaic glass on the ceiling at Grand Central during World War II, and it was still that way in 77. They fixed it since then. If you go there now,
Oh yeah,
it's even
no, it's wide
prettier.
open now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you walk into Grand Central in that blackout, and the only light that was on was the emergency light on the Vanderbilt Avenue side of GCT, of Grand Central. And the rest of the building was in complete darkness. And there were still hundreds of people in that darkness, hoping that the train was going to come in.
Wait a minute.
What?
When was the power failure? I was working in Providence, so
that was 77, Bob.
No,
There was another one.
There's one in 66.
There's several in New York.
Yeah.
65 was the blackout.
It
was weird because my grandaunt, who did middays on the Steel Pier at WPG Atlantic City, was being waked that day. And I had to walk home from high school, and it was all black, and cabs were picking up hitchhikers, and it was quite an experience.
There's a hilarious recording.
Go ahead, Ed.
I was going to say there's a hilarious recording of Dan Ingram at ABC in the November 65 blackout that some listener recorded off air. And you can actually hear his turntable speeding up and going down as the voltage
That's right.
fluctuated.
Yeah.
Well, he was right in the middle of playing a song, and all of a sudden it started waving, and he came on here and went, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what's happening?" And that was the whole beginning of it. I happen to have the radio on WABC at that time.
Everyone's Gone to the Moon was the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when I had the blackout in '77,
Rich Tracy.
I may have said this to you guys before, but
Hi, Chrissy.
they had power, a backup generator on the World Trade Center where the transmitter was. I think it was up. I could be wrong, but I think it was in the World Trade Center in '77. So we had a carrier, but we didn't have a backup generator at the studio. In their infinite wisdom, they had the transmitter powered up, but at CBS we didn't have any power to send any show up to the. I think they've since fixed that.
I
In
think
65, I think they sent Ingram out to the transmitter, which was in Lodi, New Jersey, and they actually had him finish the show from there.
Yeah.
I think he did.
That's right.
Chris Tracy just joined us. Chris, where are you today?
Right now, I am sitting at WHYN in Springfield.
Hey.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Prince.
You're probably the only person in the building.
Sadly, that's true.
I know.
Is this your first time jumping on, Chris?
Yes, it is, Steve.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Tracy invited me. I was down with Tracy for a few days trying to warm my bones up down there. And he had mentioned that you guys did this and I'd get to see Petey and Clarky.
Oh my God. Do you remember Florida? I mean, like,
oh my God,
the West Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hotter than the surface of the sun where I come from.
Shit. Wow.
It was hell. Yeah. But we had a hell of a lot of fun.
You got to join us for Chinese food last week. You got to join Lee and Dave.
And yeah, that was a fun time. Yeah, it was good catching up, and it was great to meet those guys. I see Lee in there. Clark, I haven't seen you in a dog's age. You holding up?
Yes, sir. I am. I'm still working
glad to hear
Brady.
it. Yeah.
I think I last saw you at one of the engineering deals in Boston.
Yeah, and I saw Ed over at FEA.
I'm only in Nashua, so we have to stop meeting like this. Chris and I got to work together at WKNE in '83.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it was WXKZ in '83. We were in Rochester.
Oh, wow. I forgot that. But you were in Keene also, weren't you?
I was in Keene for a while, but I don't think we crossed paths in Keene.
That's right. Well,
we stayed in touch all those years, but I don't think we worked together. I was at KNE twice. I was PD on the FM from 89 to 91, 92, something like that. And then the dates are fuzzy, but
you were there when Gary James was there, weren't you?
Yes. Yeah. That was the second time. Yep. So
that's why we call it Radio Friends again. Hey, before we're going to stop recording in a minute, but everybody's welcome to hang a little bit. Did anybody else? I think I had Dean over there. Does anybody else wanted to add anything about that tornado that we spoke about a few minutes ago that went through Windsor Locks? Did I miss anybody on that?
Okay. I was just going to say there was another one in 2011, and we were you're talking about the swath, and that one went through Springfield, but it went all the way across the state. And when you were driving up the 84 to the Mass Pike, you could see where it cut across there, and that's got to be what 30, 40 miles.
It was 36 miles. It was on the ground for 36 miles.
Went right through our business. It sounded like a train coming through. My business partner jumped under the desk.
I happened to be in Paxton at WSRS that day, but Kevin Johnson, who's the operations manager here, said he watched it come up over the river, and then it came right up to the front of the building. This is just as it was forming. Came right up to the front of this building. It took a right and headed south down Main Street, and then went up and obliterated Cathedral, and then worked its way out over through Wilbraham into Munson and Brimfield, and then it died out in Southbridge.
Yeah, the folks at WMAS stood out. They're in the Basketball Hall of Fame, stood in the parking lot watching it.
Yep.
My business was up in the water shops on Allen Street. It came up through there. The best way to describe it is like taking a carton, dipping it in a pail of water, and centrifuge, spinning it all over the place. I got pictures of the parking lot, what it looked like there. And I was meeting my kids. My kids were in Long Meadow at an event, and this woman showed up to pick up her child. I said, "What have you been up to?" She said, "Oh, I was just driving down 91 having a tornado chase me up the river." And then she was serious. I couldn't believe it.
Yep. Yep.
Well, let me do this. Let me jump out of here. But before we go, I want to make sure and then, like I say, everybody can hang. It's always good to be able to stay if you can. So let me just go through if I miss anybody. I know some of the guys had to take off. I think John Landry, John, you're there. Okay. And I thought Ted Dalicu had to take off. I think Greg Simonson took off. Anybody else that left? No, anybody else?
Yeah, the judge left.
If you're not here, let us know. So, I want to thank
here.
Chris Tracy, who just joined us. Chris, if you can hang out a little bit and come back again. Ed Bruder, Lee Gordon, Pete Salant, Bob Craig, Bob Marks, Bob Zamboni. Of course, we all know him as Bob DiCarlo. Clark Schmidt, Jim Harrington, Ron Pell. I'm Steve Parker. Pete Salant over there. Is there anybody that I have missed that either left or is here quietly? I think I got everybody.
Well, I just wanted to say that I'll be back.
Bob,
believe me, it has been a very, very trying time in my physical well-being. So I had an echocardiogram. They told me my heart's fine and things are working out. And it's the cirrhosis of the liver, which, since I love to drink wine, and I drank a bottle and a half every day for about 35 years.
Oh my God. Wow.
You would wonder why my liver would bitch. But excuse me, the word is complain. Well, it did. And that's been kind of like what, if anybody's familiar with what happens when your liver isn't totally dead, is that your abdomen swells up with water. And so I have to take these huge amounts of diuretics, which means that I spend an awful lot of time standing down looking at the urinal. But at any rate,
that's okay. That's okay. It's all theater of the mind.
Not a lot of long walks.
No, but I'll be back. I have to, believe it or not, I have to pee. So,
but I will tell you,
your word for it.
It's been wonderful talking to you guys. It really has. And
if we'd known you were in West Palm, we would have had you come to the Chinese buffet with us.
I think what we all found out is that through the stories that you've told, that's why radio it's great. That's why it's the theater of the mind. I mean, just everybody who described the storm, I'm sure you could all see it through your imagination. And I think that's what we remember the most. And so thank you for sharing those. I'm going to jump off right now. I'm staying on. But I'm just going to kill the recording because Overson will kill me if I go much further. It's going to be an editing task. So let me just stop it here. But thanks a lot, you guys. And we're going to do our next show again next Friday, which will be the 26th of January. And again, hopefully you could join us again. It's always a lot of fun. And as I mentioned earlier, if you can think of anybody you'd like us to invite, shoot me an email or something. Be happy to do that, and we'll send out a note, and I'll copy you guys on the note that we send out, and just see if they want to, come on and just be a guest, and it can be just a few minutes if they want to stop by, because as we've seen, every time somebody comes on, there's more stories, and that's the best part.
And right, Steve, we'll see you tomorrow morning on WTIC 1080.
Oh, Pete, you're the best. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
it's that's
He did that like a true programmer, that get the plug in,
Shameless plug.
Yep.
I said,
Steve, thanks a lot.
Don't forget the plug for me.
Your friend has got a lot to share.